Time.
Okay, so my before and after. Before is going to be right before FC started, which in my case was FC6. But we'll say the day before that. And then after is right now.
Okay. Do you happen to know the date of before FC6 started?
We're going to say probably somewhere around roughly April 2015.
Okay.
Something like that.
And the after is right now.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right, let's start with thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So, did anything change with thoughts from before to after? Like, did they increase, decrease, or stay the same?
So volume of thoughts.
Right, volume of thoughts.
There's a weird phenomenon in that I objectively know that they must have, but it doesn't feel like it. But I'm certain it has to have reduced.
Okay.
I think it has. I think it has reduced. I think it has, but I don't feel that it has. Is the answer.
Okay, so I wonder if we can go into the difference between thinking and feeling.
Well, what I think has happened is that I've just, there's been a lot of small shifts. And as soon as I have a small shift, I get used to it very quickly. Maybe within a few minutes or maybe within a few days. And so then that becomes normal. And so, there might have been, 20 or 50 or whatever of those between before and after. And so it's very difficult to wind back then and see what it was to basically, because it wasn't just like one blinding flash and then I was different.
Right. Okay.
But I am quite a bit different. So the real true answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I'm less bothered by them, but you're asked about volume, so I don't know if there's less or more. And but I have this sneaking suspicion that there's less.
Okay. Do you remember years ago, somebody had an estimate of how many thoughts we have every day, and it was really huge. It was like 32,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Do you know if anybody, either in the Finder's course or outside, has determined that on some kind of objective basis, people do have fewer thoughts after being on the continuum?
I think we'd have to define a thought. If a thought is, if we're just going to stick for a moment to verbal, talking to yourself inside your head is a thought, then without a doubt there's people in the EC who have less of those or almost none of them.
Right.
Whereas before, I interviewed someone who has gone from just regular, busy, corporate, thinking all the time mind to not thinking on that level very much, but being in present time or
right.
whatever. So I know of other people like that too. So I know people that have had them reduced. I know people that have had them greatly reduced. I don't know if anybody is at zero.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, of the people we know, I know that Amy has had almost no self-referential thoughts left anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe you're the one that told me that.
Well, that might be a misquote. She's in a non-dual reality where what is outside of her body feels like me, and what it no less than the body and the. So okay. When she looks out, she sees me everywhere.
Right.
Okay. And so I think she's indicated less thoughts. I don't know if I've had a definitive statement like that, but other people I've talked to in EC have also said that directly, that they have a lot less self-referential thoughts.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, because my next question was going to be, do certain types of thoughts come to the foreground, more private history thoughts? So I guess those are like self-referential thoughts, right?
Um, I think there is less self-referential thoughts. There's less. There's less. Um, yeah,
Okay. What about judgmental thoughts?
definitely less. Way, way less. I'm not. It's not zero, but it's a. There are a lot of stuff I was judgmental about before. I don't care about now. So there's no reason to judge it.
And what about worrying thoughts?
Much less. Actually, sometimes I'm worried that I'm not worrying enough.
Right. Are there any types of thoughts of which there are more?
Well, there's certainly some other categories of less I can cover before we get to the more.
Oh, okay.
There's less types of thoughts of recrimination or,
Okay.
or getting back at people. There's less planning, a lot less planning. There's a lot less replaying conversations that have already occurred and trying to notice what I could have said better to win the conversation.
Okay.
Because of course all conversations have to be won because they're a battle. That I don't believe or feel that anymore.
Okay.
There's less rehearsing in anticipation of upcoming conversations, so I can be sure to win those. There was an enormous amount of that going on, of anticipating conversations that might be coming up in the future, and then going over my lines as to what I might say.
Okay.
Like I'm in a movie of my own life or something. So that is drastically reduced. I don't know, not over 90%.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Problem-solving thoughts have reduced a huge amount. Yeah. There's other types of thoughts that have reduced, but they have to do with emotion, so I'll wait till you get to the emotion category before I mention them.
Okay.
So as far as any have increased, thoughts of gratitude, thoughts of thankfulness. So those kinds of thoughts have increased.
Okay. Now, when you say problem-solving thoughts have decreased, do problems still get solved even though there are fewer thoughts about them?
Well, there's less problems, and they either get solved quicker, or they kind of get let be as they are, or honestly sometimes ignored.
Okay.
So there's maybe one category of life where it's probably, I don't want to mention which one it is, but it's probably I could benefit from more proactivity in problem solving in that area. But in most other areas, there isn't really any outstanding problems. So there's a lot less that's being interpreted as a problem.
Okay.
In the first place. So there's less to solving to do because there's less opportunities.
Okay. Okay. And I remember you said that the Leonard Levinson stuff was a huge breakthrough for you. How much of this lessening of thoughts is due to the Leonard Levinson work?
I would say a very large amount is due to that.
Lester Levinson, I should say.
Yeah. I think that probably everything in the EC had some benefit. I mean, the FC rather, and EC. But I think the Levinson was a real turning point because there were several of the FC techniques that I found frustrating. I did them anyway, but the Levinson one, I did not find it easy, but in retrospect, it was enormously rewarding.
Okay.
Because I realized that, there was a person in my past, Susan Jones or whoever, to make up a name, and then I had animosity towards that person. The animosity is not really towards an existing person. It's just towards a thought. It's just towards a thought inside myself. So in other words, I realized that one part of me was upset at another part of me.
Right.
And so by sending love to that part instead of negativity of any kind, then there's a lot of self-healing that occurred.
Okay. I guess we've sort of transitioned into emotions.
Okay.
So to follow the format, I'd ask the same types of questions. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of half answered it, but just to be thorough, let's ask, what changed with your emotions from before April 2015 to after?
I think the essential shift is that there are several aspects to it. One of them is that it was the Levinson method showed me that I could take responsibility for everything that was basically inside me. In other words, if it was inside, i.e., I started with memories because that's where Levinson starts. If a memory is inside me, then how I'm holding it is my responsibility. So that was a large. I already consciously knew that from all my self-development work, but I hadn't. What Levinson did was showed me that I was still holding animosity towards a large number of other people, which means other parts of myself, because they were just thoughts inside me. So that shift from what I'm thinking about other people is what I'm really thinking about parts of me, and then the responsibility that it's all in how I hold it, and the idea that sending love towards that thought or part is self-healing, all that kind of coalesced into a powerful, the next step was like, well, it's all up to me, and I have no longer the footing that I had, right? The ground to stand on, that someone did it to me, or that I was a victim in any way, or that my life had been bad, or the past had screwed me over, or so-and-so was my oppressor. All of that just started falling apart. It didn't have anywhere else. It didn't have anywhere to stand in the face of these realizations. I still needed to put in the work with the names.
Okay.
I did that over and over again, and it was very, very helpful.
And I'm curious as to how that happens. So, for example, you project love towards, like Susan Jones, you said.
Yep.
Project love towards that person.
Yep.
And even that is still a thought, because
That's
love,
right.
in a way, is a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And you're projecting it towards someone who still is another thought, which
Yes.
is inside you.
Yes.
So how does that kind of I almost want to say artificial construction of emotion, because it's not the way we normally think of emotions. We don't think of creating love purposefully, but how does that kind of practice lead to the kind of change that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it so
it's
powerful?
certainly artificial, so to speak, because you're making it up on purpose. But let's say 10 years ago, Susan Jones did something that I interpreted as bad, and now for 10 years, I've hated Susan Jones. That also is artificial, but it felt like it wasn't artificial because, hey, she offended my value system, so of course I'm going to now hate Susan Jones. That also is completely arbitrary and artificial. So what this is doing, I'm no expert, but I'll just give you my best scenario theory of it is that in this case, it's really allopathy. Allopathy is using the opposite to counteract opposite agent. So it's just like if you're too hot, you turn on the air conditioner. If you're too cold, you turn on the heater. That's allopathy. So if the body's inflamed, you cool it down, and so on. So in this case, we're using the example of hate. There's hatred towards Susan. So the opposite is love. And the hatred is just a habit that's in there. If I could snap my fingers and make it go away, that would be great, but I can't. But it just takes X amount of seconds or minutes of repetition of doing the opposite. So what I see is that any negativity that I have towards someone else, whether it be anger or hate or revenge or jealousy or what you can just list them, all of these are just some form of mental stress. And by putting love in, it's just a medicine for any of these forms of mental stress. It's a kind of an all-purpose panacea. It just melts it away.
Mm.
You're just choosing how you're going to feel about the person, and it's not just a momentary choice. You have to do the inner work of actually generating love. I mean, what I would do, one of the things I did is I would think of something or somebody or an event or whatever that I really felt great love towards. Let's say I loved Amy, somebody named Amy. I loved Amy a lot. So I would allow or generate or feel all this massive love towards this fictional person, Amy, pretending that's real. And then I would get that amped up as much as I could. Then I would direct that towards Susan.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of your own wrinkle of the Levinson technique.
Yeah, I mean, if I needed to amp it up, then I would use an existing well of love towards somebody, say Joe. Okay, I really love Joe a lot, so that's an easy one. So I'm going to get as much love towards Joe as possible. Now keep that feeling, put it towards this other person that up until now I felt bad about.
Okay. I'm going to get rid of my cell phone.
But yeah, so that's one of the ways that I did that.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of reminds me that we're more powerful than we think we are. I mean, because all our lives we've thought that emotions just happen to us, and here you're kind of just deciding to take control of this emotion called love and finding that you can succeed at it.
Yeah, I mean, the Lester story is kind of a revelation because he said, well, I just chose to do this, globally, I mean, he actually made a system. He made a system out of it. It's like, well, just list everybody. And then, because Levinson kind of found this out by accident. He started feeling love towards somebody, he felt better, and then he just started running with it. He didn't design it. But Jeffrey then collapsed it and said, okay, this week, you have to do this as a systemized practice.
Right.
concentrated dose. And so I did it that week. But actually, it took me actually quite a number of days just to get the list consolidated. But in the meantime, I had written down, 20 or 30 people, that top people I could quickly start loving while I was working on my database.
Right.
Because those were some people, you just family members and friends that you can just put down and just go with. So my Levinson thing expanded quite a bit beyond that week and bled into a bunch of other weeks.
Wow. Okay. So, so would you say are there more emotions? I mean, specifically we're talking about love, but if we just look at emotions in general, are there more emotions than before?
Yeah, I'm not in a situation where I'm walking around feeling tons of love. The stress I felt about all these other people and situations is gone, but the number of emotions that are there is drastically less.
Okay.
Because so many of the negative emotions are gone, and there hasn't been a whole bunch of positive emotions springing up to fill the place. So there's a lot of neutrality and evenness.
Now, am I right that Jeffrey said that Levinson got to location 3 because he was loving everybody all the time, but he didn't get further than that?
That sounds roughly familiar.
Yeah.
I think that he eventually did get to some kind of non-duality.
Okay.
But I don't know if he did it through the loving technique.
So do you find an inkling or kind of a hint in your experience that if you continue the loving, that it might take you, let's say, to location 3?
Yeah, I believe that's the case.
Okay.
I believe that from Jeffrey's model is that this is just brain circuits. It doesn't have to do setting aside ideas of beliefs or karma or spiritual influences or whatever. It's just which brain circuits you're favoring. That's kind of the secular model he's presented to us in FC.
Okay.
And, using that model, it's just really a matter of what you put your attention on as to which circuits get favored and activated and then habituated. So basically all the hatred and negativity it's just a habit. It's not a set thing.
Right. Well, does that mean that even something like location 4 and beyond is a brain circuit that exists within us, and it's just that we haven't focused or concentrated or put our energy into it, and then if we did, we'd get to location 4?
I'm not sure because I don't think I've been to location 4, but my theory on that is that location 4 is the result of certain brain circuits actually being off, not new ones being turned on.
Okay.
I think that a lot of quote unquote higher stature spirituality is from a reduction of certain types of brain activity. Maybe some new activity coming on as well, but I think there's a massive component of it which is a reduction of activity. For instance, he made clear in some of his papers that, the reduction of activity of the default mode network can lead to non-duality.
Okay. Okay, so do the emotions that you do have carry more or less charge?
Less. Quite a bit less.
And more arousal or less arousal?
Less arousal. I'm not completely sure on the difference. Those two kind of feel the same to me, but I'm going to guess that it's less.
Okay. And what about, I guess you've kind of answered this, but changes in level of irritability?
Irritability, I think, is an area that intersects with the negative emotions. I don't think it's exactly the same, but I think there's a big overlap. The irritability also has to do with many times bodily stuff or sensory input. And I've also been working on that as well, even with the Levinson technique. So it even happened today. Like I was sitting on this chair and I happened to be near the dishwasher. I was right outside the kitchen on the chair. The dishwasher was running, and it started vibrating in a way that it doesn't normally do. And the vibration was very irritating sound. But I decided to stay there and put love into the sound. So,
Okay. And
so
did it
that's,
work?
in other words, counteracting irritability with love is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So the irritability has definitely been reduced a lot.
Okay. How about envy?
Don't think I had much then, but I'm sure it's less. Pretty
And
much, I think pretty much every negative emotion has been reduced. Most of them by a huge amount.
okay. How about compassion?
I think that it's more, sometimes it's a huge amount and then sometimes it's just a little bit, but it's definitely more than before.
Okay. Do you express your feelings less often or more often?
Well, before FC started, I was really in a world of hurt. So I was expressing my negative feelings to those next to me, trying to get some help.
Hmm.
So in that state, I was very open because I was felt very screwed up and wounded and vulnerable and in trouble. So I was expressing it much more. So, and nowadays it's less
Okay.
because my kind of default, not default mode network, but my default is that if something's not wrong, I don't probably say that much. But on the other hand, I'm probably expressing my positive emotions. My positive emotions, I should amend my previous statement, are somewhat higher, not a massive amount, but somewhat. I'm probably expressing my feelings, my positive feelings, a little bit more
Okay.
than before. A, because they're there, and B, because I don't feel as shielded and guarded.
Okay. Okay. What about changes in sense perceptions? And I guess we can take them one at a time. Is there a change in visual sense perception?
I don't think so.
Okay. How about auditory?
Sometimes I notice tinnitus more than others, and that's changing around. I don't know how different that is from before. That might have been the case back then too. I don't think there's really any noticeable difference in my auditory.
Okay. Smell?
No.
Touch?
Oh well, okay. Let me point out this. There difference. The difference in these areas is that my reactivity towards extremes has been reduced. That's not really a difference in perception per se, but in my reaction to things. You know, because I was more sensitive to bright lights or loud sounds or being physically impacted. So my overall sensitivity, I think, has been reduced, which is good.
Okay.
It's not really a perceptual thing per se, but yeah.
Okay. And any change in taste?
I don't think so.
Okay. Have you noticed any sense of synesthesia?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Have you noticed synchronicities more, or putting things out there and then they come about?
Well, that's what I was always trying to do before.
Hmm.
Now there's been more of a relaxation of trying to do that.
Okay.
Whether or not something is synchronistic is less important to me now.
Okay.
But there's more of a sense of just letting life unfold, I guess. That's been a hard one.
Okay.
But it is changing into more of allowing things to happen rather than trying to make them happen.
Okay.
So there's more of a sense of the right things are happening more so than, oh, that's a synchronicity. Great.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not really noticing the synchronicities. I'm now kind of more like being in the flow or something like that. Before the
Okay.
synchronicities were something to, they were a validation that the universe is on my side.
Right.
Now it's more like everything's fine. I don't need that validation.
Okay.
Something like that.
Now, what about perception of physical pain? Has that changed?
I think I'm much more able to bear it. More the suffering is probably reduced. I don't know how much the physical pain might have changed. Maybe not that much, but my reaction to it has certainly changed. Certainly less reaction to the pain.
Okay.
More able to.
How do you explain that?
More able to have the pain and not grip it or not fight it, or it just kind of passes through me.
Okay.
Like, say, stubbing your toe, right?
Right.
As before, it might have made me very, very angry. To stub the toe, there's pain, and immediately there's this anger. Now that is not happening very much, if at all. Now I might stub the toe the same way, the same pain, but either no anger or an anger that just kind of starts to try to come up, but in less than 1 second, it's just gone and I'm fine.
Okay.
And now, I mean, the foot still hurts, but I'm not having that recrimination or that anger at the table that I kicked or at myself for being an idiot or whatever. That's not, so therefore, the real truth is I don't think I really knew what pain really was because I was so busy coloring it with emotions and reactions that there was this mixture of the pain and the reaction. Now there's just the pain. And I cannot say whether that pain is different or not, but my experience of it's different because of this lack of the reaction.
Okay.
I doubt if it's that much different, but the whole experience is radically different.
Right.
Yeah. There's absolutely no way for me to know, though, unless I get some other indicator that my pain tolerance or thresholds have changed.
Right. I mean, you could notice like 5 minutes later that you're not worried about it anymore, right? Wouldn't that be a way of saying that there was less that the suffering's gone? Even though,
yeah. I mean, I'm aware in multiple different ways that the suffering's gone, but what I'm trying to get at is I don't really know for sure if the physical pain has changed.
Okay.
Because I would have to compare it to me having the exact same pain in the exact same situation before these shifts, and I don't think I can do that.
Okay. Okay. Now, what about memory? Is short-term memory the same, better, or worse?
Well, I was going through a lot of craziness before FC started, and my memory was in bad shape then. And it is, I've continued to experience some issues with short-term memory, but I became more conscious of it recently in the last couple of months, and I've started working on it and becoming more aware of things, and I've been able, my short-term memory has improved a lot since then.
Okay.
Because I've put attention on it. In particular, it was forgetting, there was like, one thing was like forgetting where items were that I'd placed that I owned from even a few minutes ago. You know, I'd set something down, say I set down the stapler somewhere in the office. 5 minutes later, I can't remember where I put it. But because I noticed that and said, I'm going to do something about it, I've started actually trying to remember it, and that has improved a lot.
Okay.
Forgetting of appointments, I don't know if that's short-term memory. So I would say essentially it has changed more so than gotten better or worse. It has changed.
Okay. And would the same be true of long-term memory?
Similar. I think the long-term memory, in fact, the recall is probably better. It doesn't matter as much now. There's one category that I can point to, and just as a specific example, where um, one second.
It might even be far less than that, but
No
I'll be
problem
back.
at all.
Okay, be back in a minute.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, but we just chit chatted for a while. Um, let's see, where were we? We were talking about memory, and we talked about long-term memory. Um, was there a shift in your self-identification?
I have no idea what that means. That's such a vague question.
Well, I
Obviously,
guess you
yes.
kind of touched on it when you said that um, things are less important, like synchronicities are less important. Doesn't that mean, I mean, I'm just guessing here, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but doesn't that mean there's less of an identification with a self if like future things are not as important as before?
I would say that the answer must be yes, but I don't think I really get the question. But I'll give it a provisional yes.
Okay. I'm gonna move around because I need to plug. My computer's getting low on battery. I'm gonna see if I can plug it in without changing the light situation. Yeah, it looks like I will be able to.
Good.
There we go. Okay. I think you kind of answered it, but just to be complete, when there's a disturbance, what happens to your sense of okayness?
So not a good question because a disturbance, kind of by definition, means that what is being disturbed is your okayness. But I'll give the question the benefit of the doubt. Well, there's less disturbances. B, that's the biggest change. B, the pro forma answer is that very seldom does the sense of okayness really go away.
Okay.
It might be a little bit modified, but not by much.
Yeah, that kind of answers the question. I think probably what they meant was when there is an outer disturbance that's not necessarily tied to your construction of your experience. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't speculate as to what they meant.
I'm going to take it as meaning if something happens that most other people would be upset about, do you get upset?
Right.
And the answer is not very much.
Okay.
Hardly at all.
Has there been a change in intuition or inner knowing?
I think there has been. I think actually less intuition. I'm not trying to call on it as much, I guess.
Okay.
I think I was trying to call on intuition, inner knowing to figure out what to do or how to navigate through life. And now, since there's more of a sense that things are okay, I'm not trying to call on that anymore.
Right. Okay.
It was more of a technique, and intuition was like a technique that I would turn on or try to activate to get answers to be better, able to handle whatever is going on in life. But now, with things being more okay, then sometimes, less. I would say
okay.
Less.
What about introversion or extroversion?
Changed more or less, but I think there's less reaching out to other people because I'm feeling so freaked out and upset, and there's a lot less of that because I'm not freaked out now. And but I'm just kind of more neutral now.
Okay.
I'm not really. I don't feel I'm introverted or extroverted. I'm just kind of like here.
Right. Well, you sort of answered the next question, which is sense of being incomplete, needing things or people to fill you up, or being complete.
Well, I think when you have your when you have your basic needs kind of being met, it's really easy to say I feel complete. But one of those can be subtracted, and then it's like, well, how complete really are you? Um, but that's more on the relative level. But as far as there's definitely a greater sense of being okay, and I guess there's less seeking, so there's less incompleteness. Yeah.
Okay. So let me kind of add a question to that,
Mm-hmm.
which I know Jeffrey asked to people in later locations who sometimes don't care so much about their job or their income. Let's say that starting tomorrow you had no income or no job. Would you feel less complete? I mean, a basic human need, if that was not there, would your sense of completion go down?
Well, see, the thing, I'm having a little bit of a struggle with this question because I don't feel a sense of completion or incompletion.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to really apply. I might, if this hypothetical happened, I might feel spurred to move into action, but I don't know if I don't think it would lead to incompleteness. It would lead to like action needs to be taken.
Well, would there be less negative emotion around the situation than there was before April 2015?
Probably. I don't know how much less, but probably less. Yeah.
Okay. Do you like or accept yourself more than before?
Probably less because I'm not needing to now.
Hmm.
Well, I think before, my whole psyche was in trouble. Well, there's two befores. There's how I was like a couple years before FC, and then there was the year or two right before FC when I was really in some emotional turmoil. So but yeah, I would say definitely. I would have to say there's less even being concerned about liking myself or not. That's just almost like a non-starter. It doesn't seem to apply really. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have a sense of having a mission in life?
Probably less sense of a mission.
Okay.
There's no need for one. But if there was going to be any mission, it would probably be something along the lines of FC or EC. Not like going out and starting a Jeffrey thing, but helping people kind of in that regard, maybe.
Okay.
But the question of, I used to be very gung-ho on mission. And that idea vanished way before April 2015. And I was feeling bad that it went away. And now it hasn't come back, but I feel less bad about it.
Okay.
So that's how it's changed.
Yeah, you really do have two befores.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why we can't adjust our questions to incorporate both of them, because
Sure.
It is kind of an artificial thing to insist that people have this before and after, like a weight loss commercial.
Right. Well, you just need to have somewhere that you're orienting your questions, because these are time-based questions.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Have you become more aware of your shadow side or your blind spots?
shadow side, I'm probably feeling now, this may disagree with an earlier interview I did, but I think I'm less, it's less in my face. I'm less aware of it day to day than I was when I was in this horrible emotional state, because that's all I was feeling was shadow stuff like that.
Right.
I'm incredibly aware of it at all times. So I'm probably less aware of it now, but probably more of it has been transmuted. So there's less, hopefully there's less to be aware of. What was the second part?
Your blind spots.
That's a tough one, because every time you have a realization, you're changing a blind spot somehow. And I was having tons of realizations when I was in the horrible state, and I'm having lots of them now going through FC and EC. So I don't really know how that has changed. It's more pleasant for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, like when I was going through the emotional turmoil, I was getting enormous amounts of learnings and realizations. They were coming because of, most likely because of being in the pressure cooker, but they were definitely happening. I mean, again, a tough question, because being aware, like you said, I mean, if you're aware of it at that moment, it's no longer a blind spot. So,
Right.
so the question should probably be reworded. Insights, breakthroughs, and realizations have been happening both times.
Okay.
And now they're just happening with ease and flow before they're happening with pain and suffering.
Okay. That's definitely an improvement.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Well, here's kind of a side question that I'm just curious about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice, remember in Jeffrey's video, I think the last one he did, he talked about how he talks to all these people in location 4 and later, and even they have blind spots that they're not aware of. And I think he said somewhere that because they've sort of rested in this location, they're not even interested in looking.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can see their blind spots, and he can do this kind of interview and pull them out. So I know you say that you have these insights regularly, and the blind spots go away as soon as you see them. So my question is, in experiences like the EC conversations, whatever you call them, the Zoom conversations we have with the other members, do you notice other people's blind spots? Like even people that are in various locations, do you find yourself thinking, oh, that person doesn't see this or that? I'm just curious, it's not on the page, but
I think I have noticed what I believed were blind spots from a few people in these hangouts. Of course, I can never be really sure that they are. It's just my probably somewhat or completely wrong opinion. But yeah, there's been sometimes I've noticed, there's, it's not like I'm having a thought, that's a blind spot. It's really more like just a little quirk, like a little thing will go through my head of, not so sure about that.
right.
It's more just kind of like a little quirk, like a passing breeze, more so than like a formal thought. Blind spot, that person has a blind spot.
Right.
I'm just kind of really more like, accepting them for the most part.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're not doing this kind of in-depth questioning with people, but I do think it's very interesting that Jeffrey has noticed that with PNSE comes what I will now call a personal dogmatism, that A, I found something great, B, there's probably nothing beyond it, and C, I don't have blind spots,
Right.
And these are, at least 2 out of 3 are fictional, so there's an assuredness that comes, which is false.
Okay.
And I think Jeffrey's doing a vast service for us by pointing that out.
Right.
So you can now wake up and not have this false sense of assuredness.
I like that. Yeah, it really kind of underlines why we do these interviews.
Exactly. Yeah. They're a revelation. So
Right.
it's a beautiful thing.
Okay, this is a question that Patty added. Um, so tell me if it's important or relevant or interesting. Any changes in intimate relationships, family, friends, friendship patterns?
Definitely improved in every area.
Okay. Are you more or less self-conscious in social situations?
Less,
Okay.
somewhat less.
Is there more or less need to be alone or be with people?
More need to be alone. Well, when I was going through the emotional turmoil, I was pulling at anyone that could help me, and I wanted to be. I was reaching out to people. Now
Right.
I'm more happy. I'm not more happy. I'm more all right with just being alone. But I'm
Okay.
also aware that having relationships is important, so I've been actively working on cultivating them, so I'm not just alone all the time.
Okay.
With being alone, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy long term. So, and then cultivating the relationships has helped.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessarily an FCEC thing, but it's just something else I'm doing in my life.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you connect with this word, but if your relationship with the divine has changed, how has it changed?
More accepting, I think, more feeling like everything's all right.
Okay. Um, do you stay in touch with friends more often, less often, or about the same?
Unknown. I
No difference?
don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, has your coordination changed? More or fewer accidents, bumps, stumbles?
Possibly improved a little
Okay.
bit. Well, when I was in the soup, I was having lots of bumps and stumbles and lack of coordination. Before the soup, I wasn't having as many, but now is probably best of all three.
Okay.
I'm more
Okay.
conscious. I'm less running into stuff even in either of the two befores.
Okay. Is that because there's more attention on present moment experience and therefore um, more ability to navigate the physical environment?
I think I'm less caught up in deep thought, vortexes.
Okay. Are your reflexes same, slower, or faster?
I would guess they're probably about the same.
I guess to really answer this question, we need a little hammer
Yes,
to bang on people's knees before and after
that's
their
right.
shift.
That's right. We need to be
Probably
objective.
right. Um, do you take better care of your body now?
Some less, some better, and some worse. Well, it depends on what you call better or worse. But dietary things is better. But I'm exercising is less. Well, it's complicated because of the two different befores. Changed more than one way or the other. Some things are taking more care of, and some things taking less care of.
Okay. Is overall health better or worse?
Well, certainly it's overall better than the most recent before because I was feeling like horrible, and I was feeling horrible physically and emotionally. They kind of went together. So it's better than that before, and probably it's hard to say if it's better than the first before or not.
Okay.
Maybe around the same, or I mean, I'm emotionally more healthy, hopefully, than before. I'm less worried about health, but I can't really compare it to the first before, but definitely much better than the second before. Second being
Right.
the most recent one.
Okay. I suppose there's kind of an unwritten assumption that you're supposed to be healthier, but then I'm thinking of at least two guys, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta was selling cigarettes and he got lung cancer. And I think by most standards of people today, he took less care of himself after he was so-called enlightened because he didn't do anything about his lung cancer. And I think the same is true of Ramana Maharshi. I think
Well, Ramana had many doctors try to help him, but he was totally fine with whatever the body did. Nisargadatta realized at a very early age, in his 30s or something. So by the time he was 60 or 70, he had already been around a long time in his awakened state. So,
but didn't he have? I mean, if he had really stayed on top of his lung cancer, wouldn't he have lived longer?
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, if he had stopped smoking, let's put it that way.
If he hadn't smoked at all, but I don't think he cared.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think he was just fine.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. At least I have a little trouble with that. Because even though on the one hand, we're only responsible for ourselves, but on the other hand, if you have a family or people are depending on you, is it okay to just do things which are going to lead to illness?
Well, who's to say Nisargadatta didn't have blind spots?
Yeah. Yeah, I know people ask him about that all the time, right? When
They asked him at certain times. I mean, I don't think that the books about him give a true view of what it was like to be around him.
Right.
I don't think that's possible. But they're the best thing we have. I mean, there's a few movies out there too. Videos of him on YouTube. Yeah, it's definitely an area. Like Ramana Maharshi sat in one place for so long that the ants took up residence in his body, creating an insane amount of pain. So I don't know.
Right.
If you are complete identification with the self, then the ants are just as important as his body.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you work harder or less hard than before? Or about the same?
From the first before, I'm working less hard. After the second before, I'm able to do more work. I'm not sure if I'm doing more or less, but I was pretty freaked out, and I'm less driven in general.
Okay.
Which I find a tad bit bothersome, but less is the answer.
Okay. I don't know exactly what this question means, but I'll just ask it. Do you have more boundaries in place or fewer?
NA.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to answer that either. Is the law of attraction operating in your life?
NA.
Okay. How has what you believe changed?
Less beliefs.
Okay.
Less belief that I know what's going on. A lot less certainty. Before the whole idea was to become more certain, right? You're more certain you are, the more you can get life to do what you want it to do, and the better off you are. Now,
Right.
Now I don't think that anything I believe or understand is final. It's just all provisional, and most of it's probably wrong.
Okay.
And so it's just my current operating delusion. I don't mean that negatively. I'm just saying it's useful enough. I realize, where the mouse is and I can pick it up and stuff. But my beliefs about reality, I don't have any firm concept that those are the way things are.
Okay.
So there's less certainty and there's less being concerned about being certain.
Okay.
So yeah, I might still have some beliefs, but they're just kind of like for convenience.
Okay.
I don't really want to have any beliefs, but I don't know if you can operate with zero beliefs. But what I want is that if I have them, they're almost interchangeable in a way. If they would be guided at all, hopefully they would just be guided by ethics and the golden rule, and that's about it.
All right.
But there's been so many things that I thought were the case proved wrong through FC and EC and in between. That is just mind-boggling. So it doesn't do me any good to firmly believe anything. I'm just going to later see that it's probably not true. So.
Okay.
So yeah, I have less beliefs.
Do you have a sense of who or what you really are?
Definitely not.
Okay.
No, sir. I do not.
Did some things that mattered before no longer seem to matter?
Move on. Next question.
Okay. Do you have a sense that you have more or less power in your life?
I have less illusion that I have power.
Okay.
More realization that it's not up to me what is going on.
Right.
At all. Whether you call that surrender or fatalism is irrelevant, actually.
Right.
I don't really believe in fatalism, but I don't want to get stuck on there is free will or there isn't free will, or there is fatalism, there isn't. I think it's a kind of essentially an unanswerable question. So the closest approximation that I have is A, I don't know, and B, I have to act like I have free will. So then I do, but I'm not really caught up in the belief that I really have free will.
Okay.
Acting like I do. There's no way to tell if you really have it or not.
Right.
Because ultimately you might be a simulation running in someone's computer that happens to be conscious, and if that computer is deterministic, then you don't really have free will.
Right.
There's no way to know that.
Well, it's like
you might figure out a way to know it later, but
right. It's like Krishna and Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Arjuna says, "Why should I fight this battle and kill these people and get killed myself?" And Krishna says, "Yeah, the whole world's an illusion, but you might as well fight anyway. You might as well play the game anyway."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's the, the 1,500-year-old statement of the exact same thing.
Right. Has your definition of love changed?
I didn't know what it was before, and I don't think I know what it is now. So my confusion about love may be modified, but it's another agnostic area of my life. I don't really know what it is. I know it's important, and I want to use it, and I want to be connected to it. What it is, though, and its definition is, I think, a wormhole.
Well, couldn't we say, based on your experience with the Levins and stuff, that at least you think that generating a thought, which you see as love, even though, like you said, it's just love projected on another thought, at least that technique, if you want to call it that, has some value.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But if we're talking dictionary definition, that's just a conversation that can keep going on for ages. But my whole usage of it has changed, and my respect for it has increased. And yeah, there's been definitely a lot of changes around love, for sure. Definition-wise, I consider that an unanswerable question at the moment.
Okay. Do you have more of a sense that we each experience life from our uniquely programmed point of view?
Already thought that. So
Okay. Does that seem to be more in your awareness now?
maybe a little.
Okay. Did your sense of gratitude, well, I guess we know the answer. Did your sense of gratitude or appreciation change?
Yes.
Did your sense of communion, belonging, or union change?
More connection of more sense of communion probably.
Okay. Do you find yourself more or less quick to judge others?
Less quick.
Okay.
Not
Are there any
completely free.
change in your attachments, fixations, or possible addictions?
Probably some change in that area. I maybe I don't know if I could say more. Maybe some things less and some things more. Probably increased freedom overall in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, not 100% freedom. You know, I mean, you hear of spiritual teachers that are also alcoholics, so
Right.
and they're supposedly awakened. So I mean, it's weird. It's a weird question.
Right. Um, do you see yourself as more than just a physical body and or a programmed mind?
Yes.
Okay. I sense that's a Rich question. Sounds like something Rich would say.
Maybe.
And Rich, if you're listening to this recording, I love you.
You're awesome, Rich. Thank
I'm
you.
just saying it sounds like something you'd say.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. I think we're pretty much done.
Okay.
I don't know what this means. Are thoughts emotionally charged?
I can't answer that one.
Okay. Do the contents of thoughts occur with more or less emotion? I guess we kind of answered that, didn't we?
Yeah, not less.
And do you get pulled into stories of the past? We answered that.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the outline. Is there anything you'd like to return to? You'd like me to return to and delve deeper into?
I think we covered it. I think that's been very good, actually.
Okay. So I guess it took us an hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you did me, it took, what, an hour and a half?
Right around the same time, I think.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions or complaints or suggestions for further research? Or
I think maybe we could each take a minute and say what we've gotten from this.
okay. I've gotten a lot from it. I liked what you said about problem solving thoughts, and I was kind of scribbling really fast, so it's kind of hard to read my own writing here. What you said about replaying thoughts over and over and how that has lessened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess, you know, when you say something that kind of resounds in my own experience, there's kind of a little bell going off.
Yeah.
So I liked that. And I wrote down this. I really like this. If a memory is inside of me, then I'm responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I you know, that's another one of those things that I've kind of heard in different ways, but the exact way you put it kind of, I mean, it's actually showing me things where I need to work. Because, you know, as soon as you said that, I thought, yeah, I have all these memories, and am I being 100% responsible for them? And I guess the answer is no. I mean, it wouldn't strike me that way unless there was like work to be done on that
Yeah, see,
area.
I used to think that the past was something official that really happened.
Right.
But now I understand it's a construct that I have created.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's my responsibility. So all the stuff in that hopper, of course, the outside world put it in, and I couldn't stop it from coming in. But I'm the only person that can take responsibility for it, meaning that I can now act on it. I can change it. You know.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying, see, as long as the past was something that was imposed on me, then I'm the victim. of it.
Right.
I have no evidence that any moment before this one right now has ever occurred.
Yeah.
You know, so therefore, all my memories are occurring in the present, and so, it's my choice. It's my choice how I hold them.
Yeah.
And coming, that was a deep realization to come to, because I had done tons of processing before, but all on specific things. But I never really said, the whole ball of wax is my issue.
Right.
Maybe I'd said it before, but it didn't strike me as deeply as it did, I guess, with the Levinson thing. I mean, of course, I've heard 100 times, this is your karma, it's your you generated the karma, da 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 da. I've heard all that, and I understood it, at least intellectually. But to have that, there's a power of going through the names that was very, very. It was a lesson. It was a lesson born out of the actual doing. I don't think I would have gotten that lesson through any amount of teaching or preaching or reading.
Right.
I had to actually grind through the names to get that one.
Yeah.
And so it was time well spent, not only for, if Susan Jones is a thought in my mind and I'm hating that thought is actually part of me. So I'm hating part of me.
Right.
It's weird. It's absolutely weird, because you think the past is something else that's not you.
Yeah.
There's no past that's not me.
Right.
It's all me. I don't mean to be solipsistic about it. You can go in that direction, but all I mean is that the memory I have of Susan Jones is only a thought. Susan Jones might be dead, so if she's dead, there's obviously no Susan Jones still for me to hate. There's just the thought inside of Susan Jones.
Well, a kind of a literary way of putting that, and I can't remember the exact words, but I think William Faulkner said, the past is not only not gone, it's not even past, which to me, in the context of what you're saying, means that the reality that the past has is in the present, and it's given reality by me right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in some kind of like flippant, hey, it's just whatever I think it is. Whee! I mean, if it hurts, it hurts. That's the truth. If there's pain or anger or hatred or whatever from inside me about anything, that's it's still really hurting. I'm not going to pretend it isn't, but I can put that medicine towards it. I can have that I can shine the light of love, so to speak, onto that other part of myself. And the results are, the proof is in the pudding. You do that, you feel different. It doesn't take that long, actually.
Right.
In other words, I could spend 5 minutes feeling better about person X. That's 5 minutes that can help me the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, the other quote that came to my mind when you were saying that was, and once again, I don't know if I'm quoting it right, but Henry Ford said, whether you think you're going to succeed or you think you're going to fail, you're right.
It's the same kind of thing, actually, yeah. So I think I mentioned to you in the interview that I did towards you that the Levinson thing had kind of in some way positively metastasized into all the other techniques.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, is there any more comment that you have on what we've done?
Well, what I got out of this was a very an appreciation for the spirit that you and the open space that you held for me to be able to express myself freely. And I really appreciated the way that you asked the questions, because it felt like a safe container and a good environment to do it in. And I appreciate that.
All right. Well, I hope I hit the right balance between kind of following the format, but at the same time insulting the format when it seems kind of dumb, and also I know you're not really supposed to put in personal experience when you're doing this, but sometimes it just seems so obvious that to say, well, this happened to me.
Oh, yeah, it was a great balance. No worries.
Yeah.
No, you did. It was great.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, I guess I'll see you. You're going to be at that meeting tomorrow with
Yeah.
John, right?
Yeah, I'll see you then.
Okay. What is it? 1:00 tomorrow?
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
no, I think it's at 2:00.
Oh, I'll go look at the email.
Maybe it's 1. Let me check.